In 1993, we received Mrs. Doubtfire. Now, I have to admit, when I was a kid and I watched this movie, I was very impressed. I was impressed with the physical gag. I was impressed with the prosthetics. I was impressed with Robin Williams as a child. But now that I'm older, a little wiser, and I look back, think about Mrs. Doubtfire, I have so many issues with that movie. I have issues with the fact that the special effects, the prosthetics, were really not all that fantastic. That the acting was good, but not spectacular. Certainly not Robin Williams' best. And the movie as a whole was really ham-fisted. Of course, you can say that this is a family drama, and that's what it was supposed to be. Yet, that doesn't defeat my argument that Mrs. Doubtfire is a lame excuse for a good movie. So it's not a good movie. The Beyerdynamic DT1770 are the Mrs. Doubtfire of headphones. I have listened to these pair of headphones for weeks now, and I've been comparing them with other headphones. And we're going to do another comparison today. If you looked at the title, you already know what it is. And I just want to come out and say it. I'm going to stick with the review, the 30-day process. But I can say, with a modicum of certainty, of confidence, that the 1770s simply are not the headphones that they are pretending to be. They are not the headphones that Beyerdynamic is pretending it is. And why do I say that up front? Because the 177X from Massdrop are being sold now, and they're pushing it, and they're ham-fisting it, and they're putting the pressure on you people to buy those headphones, the Massdrop version, for about $60 or $70 less. Because if you don't buy it by May 15th, the price jumps up. Be careful what you invest in. Be careful of the marketing nonsense. Be careful of Beyerdynamic, especially when it comes to the 1770s. So today's comparison is with this, the Sendy Aiva. These headphones are spectacular. They're the same price at the 1770. They're open back, so if you're looking for a closed back version of a 1770 but better, we're going to have to keep looking for that alternative. And by better, I mean significantly better. Let's talk about the Sendy Audio, because a lot of people are interested in the Aivas. A lot of people are trying to buy the Aivas. Amazon gets them in stock and then immediately has none left because people buy these up. These are excellent headphones. These are planar magnetic. Now, the marketing about this is that these are reference class headphones. They spent 3 years manufacturing this, researching this, and every little nook and cranny of this headphone is hand-built. And I have to tell you, that is true. Even the cable that they give you is an actual copper cable. It's amazing. For $600, you get a piece of fantastic technology and handcrafted to boot. Let's just get on with it. As you know, the song that I've been listening to, much to my chagrin now, is Superposition by Young the Giant. I have the Aivas connected via their copper cable to their 4.4 to 3.5 millimeter adapter that came with the headphones. And I have that adapter plugged into a 1/4 inch adapter that's then plugged into my JDS Labs Element DAC. Okay, one too many adapters, I agree, but unfortunately, I don't have a 4.4 to 1/4, 1/4 adapter, and I've searched all over the internet and I can't find one. So this is the way that we're just going to have to do it. These headphones require a little bit of power. So I'm going to start about 11 o'clock. Here we go. Oh, that bass just comes right out. It's not particularly tight, but it's much more substantive than the 1770. Very clear, There's no sibilance, no peaking in the higher frequency, and the bass isn't bleeding into any of the other frequencies either. About 2 o'clock now. Oh, yeah. So smooth. The vocal is smooth as silk. It's like skating on ice. It's fine ground and sanded wood. That's how it feels. So damn smooth. Oh, you know what? There's more than one vocalist. And I can tell. There is soundstage. So what the primary vocalist is center stage essentially, but when the others come in and they basically echo what he's saying, it goes left and right, but he remains, the primary vocalist remains center. So I get him center and I get the other vocalist left and right. And the vocal is there. There's nothing that's hiding the vocal range at all. Everything is well defined. Everything has detail. Okay, now we're getting back to that point where all the vocals, all the elements are in the song. Okay. I can hear the breathing. I want you, you want me. There's a breath in between those phrases, and I hear it on the left ear cup, in the left ear cup. And in fact, the vocalists themselves are not perfectly timed. So the primary vocalist speaks, but the backup vocalists come in just a hair slower, and I pick that up. I didn't pick it up with the 1770s. I didn't pick it up with the headphones I tried yesterday. Now I forget which ones they were. The 5200, excuse me. The 5200 didn't quite have that. Yeah. Consistent again. I want you, you want me. When it comes around about 3 minutes into the song, same thing. I can hear the breathing. I can hear the separation of the vocalists. I can also hear a slight difference in their tenor, in their frequencies. Okay. So remember yesterday I told you that I heard a rumbling, a low rumbling in the music because of the 5200. There's a slight boost in the bass frequency. And because of that, I was able to pick out that rumbling that pervades through the song. And I didn't pick it out with the 1770. I didn't pick it out with the 9500, and I didn't pick it out with the 1060Cs. But with the 5200s, it was obvious because of that slight, very slight boost. I hear the same rumbling in the Aivas. And I'm going to start again, and I'm going to listen. I'm going to try to describe to you how loud that rumbling is. And I'm going to start at 12 o'clock. And the rumbling started. It's present. It's not overwhelming. All the other, like the string instruments right now coming in louder than the rumbling, but it's just in the background and I can hear it. And it focuses the music in a way. It's like this soothing rumbling. So there's a slight, very, very slight pause between the last string hit in the string instrument, whether it's a banjo or guitar or whatever the hell this thing is. I don't know what it is. The last string and the beginning of the vocalist's entry into the song. there's about half a second, and in that half second, I hear the rumbling in the background, and it's consistent. It's smooth. It's just like that throughout the entire song. It's probably the best reproduction of the rumbling so far. I heard it in the 5200, and then I listened for it in the 1770. I could find it in the 1770 after I knew what to look for. Compared to the 5200s, the 5200 has a little bit more volume, a little bit more heft to that rumbling. The Aivas don't bring you that heft to the rumbling, but it's easier to find that rumbling in the Aivas than it is in the 1770. All right, so I'm going to switch to the 1770. And I'm going to start at noon. Now, obviously, 1770 is fully closed, Aiva's fully open, and we're starting. The bass is about equal with the Aiva. You know, I said that the Aivas have a little looser bass, but the 1770 in comparison isn't all that much tighter. So I definitely hear the rumbling at about 3 o'clock, which is very loud for these headphones. Yeah, still not, you know, if I max out the volume, or nearly so with the 1770, I can start hearing just the hint of separation between the vocalists. But my ears start getting pierced because of that almost higher frequency ear piercing. You know, as I've said before, the 1770s just barely suppress the higher frequency range. But if I have to turn the knob almost all the way to max to get the separation in the vocal, then that also means that I'm opening up my ears to be pierced by the higher frequency. Now, it doesn't happen. It doesn't pierce it, as I've said consistently, but it gets uncomfortable. So when it comes in about 2 minutes into the song, where all the vocalists, all the instruments are in, at a higher volume, about 3 o'clock, I can't hear the separation. I can't hear the breathing as I could on the Aivas. The bass has a slightly tighter impact at about 2 minutes compared to the Aiva, and that contributes to losing out on the details in the mid-range, losing out the details in the vocal. Okay, so at this point, you know, about 2 minutes, 30 seconds into the song, there's a slowdown. All the instruments stop, except for this kind of a heartbeat in the background. There's the primary vocalist, but I feel as if there should be an additional vocalist. Like that's what they're supposed to be. And all I get is like a copy and paste of the primary vocalist's voice. Right? So you take his vocal track, you copy it, and then you paste it on top again. So I don't hear the depth to the song. If there's an additional vocalist, his voice is not coming through. His or her voice is not coming through. It's only the primary vocalist's voice coming through. And that rumbling about noon, which is decent listening level, is hardly discernible. Okay, I'm going to go back to 2 minutes and 30 seconds when the music stops and it's just those allegedly two vocalists, at least more than one. And I'm going to try to see if the Aivas pick up more than one vocalist. So I'm going to start about 2:26. Oops, I should probably plug that in. Okay, so let me take this back. 2:26. Here we go. Yes, there's two vocalists. They have different pitches. They have a slight difference in when they start singing. The primary vocalist starts and the backup vocalist is just a hair slower. Let me try again. Starting at 2:36, I think that's when it started. Okay, so it does exactly start at 2:36, so I'm going to go back to about 2:26. Okay, music stop, heartbeat, primary vocalist, secondary vocalist. Yep. So so the vocalists here are at minimum of two. They're trying to hit the same notes, but they're slightly off because that's how people are. That's the vocal cords. That's how life works. My voice, if I was a singer, and I am not, if if I was a singer and I had my partner and he was also a singer, right, and him or her, we're recording the song, everything else being equal, we're singing the same exact portion of the music, and we have to hit the right pitch, the same pitch. We're both going to be different. We're both going to have slightly different timing. It might be minuscule, it might be by a second, which is a lot, but regardless, it's going to have different tonality to it. It's definitely going to have different tonality if the other person is a male or a female and I'm the opposite sex. It's also going to have a different tonality, even if it's the person of the same sex, because an older person will have slightly different vocal cords than a younger person. And even if you're the same age, the way that your physiology is built is going to be different from the other person. And your tonality is not going to be exactly the same. It is impossible to do that. Very good headphones with good recording, very good headphones are able to just bring out what is naturally there. The 1770s flatten everything out. I keep saying this because it's true. I'll try it again. I'll go back to 2:29 when the music stops and the vocalists are in. Yeah. So there's same thing as I found before. Slight difference in the people who are singing. There's more than one vocalist. And the 1770s simply don't pick it up. Even near max volume, it flattens things out. Now let's talk about bass response. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the song when the drum hits, first 30 seconds, and I'm going to try to give you my impression. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock with the Aivas on. the bass on these is great. It's great. The ear cups don't reverberate in the song. Now, the 5200s, there was slight reverberation inside the ear cups, which was a pleasant experience. And inside the 9500, there was reverberation, which was also pleasant but not accurate. In the Aivas, there's no reverberation. It's just good, solid bass reproduction. So let me go to the 1770s and compare. And I'm going to start at 1 o'clock and then move from 1 to 3. The bass sounds a little anemic compared to the Aiva. Okay, I'm going to try again. Okay, let's switch back to the Aiva. And I'll tell you why after I'm done. I'll tell you why I keep doing this. Okay, the Aivas have better bass. Did you get that? The fully open back headphone has better bass. It is slightly less tight than the 1770, and by slight I mean very, very slight. The impact on the 1770 when the drums come in at the beginning of the song, it's precise with no real reverberation, if any, which is kind of weird for a closed back headphone. But when I hear the same portion over and over again on the Aivas, it's slightly less tight, but there's more substance to it. Does that make any sense at all? How is it possible that open back headphones are giving better bass reproduction than the 1770? Now, the 9500, that was just a fun comparison. You can knock those. You can say that's not even a true comparison. Fine, I completely agree with you. It was just a fun comparison. But now we're talking about serious cans here. We're talking about $600 reference class planar magnetic, and the bass on the Aivas is much better overall than the 1770. Yeah, it's not as tight. There's a slight looseness to the bass, but it's also not overwhelming any of the other frequencies. And there's also a little bit more substance to the bass. Does that make sense? Whereas the 1770 in comparison, their bass sounds anemic. It seems a little flat. Now, if you say, well, that's what a reference class is supposed to be. You're supposed to get flat response. Great. We've been through this before. I said this yesterday or the day before, whenever I uploaded my last video. Is that you get to decide what is reference class for you. You get to make that decision. What you call reference class. And if in your opinion reference class is everything is, anemic, then great, that's your reference class. If you say, look, I don't want the bass to be emphasized in any way, I just want to listen to the mid-range and the treble, the higher frequencies. Okay, then that's reference class for you. If that's what you think you need in order to listen to whatever it is you're listening to, no problem. But the 1770s are not a true reference class headphone because they don't actually bring out all the detail. There is detail in this music in the lower frequency. The 1770s have a hard time picking it up. And once again, I'm going to talk about that rumbling. The rumbling in the background is in fact a detail. It's part of the song. And I picked it up on the 5200s because of the bump. Then I realized 1770s, they are picking it up. But I have to turn the volume almost to max in order to get anywhere with it. Otherwise, it's just in the background somewhere in the lower volume, and I can't feel it. If it's part of the song, you're supposed to feel it, and you are supposed to feel it because it pervades through the entire song. When you get to about 2 minutes 36 seconds, when there's a stop in the music and it's just the vocalist, we just talked about that. There's the rumbling also stops, but there is a heartbeat drum. And when that rumbling stops, there's an emphasis. Why? Because it's in the rest of the song. Why did it stop there? Because it's focusing. The creators of this music are forcing you to listen to their voice and not to the music, because the music stopped. That rumbling is no longer there. Focus only on the voice. Well, if you don't even know that the rumbling is in the background, you will miss all of that. The 1770s miss all of that. Why is this important? Because let's assume that you don't have a very powerful amp. Let's assume that you have, an FX Audio DX6 or XD6, or DAC X6, which is a very good amp DAC, but it's not as powerful or as clean as the JDS Labs. Then you're never going to pick it up, no matter how loud you take the volume. Then what's the point? Well, then you say, well, you need a reference class amplifier to go with your reference class headphone. There is some argument to that. I would agree to it to an extent. But the 1770s, they are now being marketed for normal people, for mobile use, right? That's what Massdrop's for. Massdrop has all of a sudden partnered with Beyerdynamic and making the DT1770X go like a Japanese anime. And they're marketing it as like easier to drive. They'll be driven off of your mobile device. Well, hold on a minute. If it's not giving me the detail on a desktop amp, why do you think that I'm going to be able to pick up this detail in a mobile device? Well, it's lower impedance. Okay, it's lower impedance. How? What have they changed to the driver to make it lower impedance? And in changing the driver for lower impedance, what have they sacrificed? Because there's always a sacrifice, ladies and gentlemen. There's always a sacrifice. Whenever you take something away or add something, there is a sacrifice. What's the sacrifice? I have no idea, because Massdrop doesn't tell me. Doesn't tell you. Beyerdynamic has chosen not to tell you. None of the reviewers have been able to tell you so far. There has to be a reviewer out there who has his pair of 1770s and has the 7Xs as a review unit. And if that person's out there, they should have uploaded a video about that and really detailed comparison between the two. I haven't found any. If there's somebody out there who's doing it, great, go watch their video. But as of right now, if a desktop amp cannot deliver, the desktop amp can't deliver. If the headphone through a desktop amp cannot deliver the detail, what chance is it it's going to come off of your mobile device? Your iPhone, your iPod, your Android device, a dedicated digital audio player like a Fio or a Hibby, which, by the way, I do recommend. Hibbys are great, or an Astle and Kern, or any of the others. There's so many digital audio players now. Those devices are battery powered, and as the battery depletes, their ability to put out volume also decreases. The chips inside those particular devices may not be the most up-to-date chips. So the design philosophy, the design decisions for the electronics may not be the best. You may not be getting the best reproduction on a mobile device. I think that's probably safe to say. Indeed, compared to an iPod, a desktop amp is going to give you enormously better sound. There should be no one who can test this. Between an iPod and, say, an Astle and Kern, the Astle and Kern is going to give you better. Between an Astle and Kern and a good amp DAC on your desktop using good recorded music, look, the desktop is going to win every time. Every time. So if the 17.7Xs cannot produce the detail as marketed, then you shouldn't buy it, should you? It's your call, it's your money. You get to do whatever it is you want. But if their bigger brother, the 250 ohm headphone, cannot give me the detail that's present in a song that other headphones can, off of a DAC amp that is clean, it's consistent, it is powerful, can drive the 1770s, albeit I have to push the amp DAC to almost its maximum output. If I still can't get all the details, what are the odds I'm going to get the details for the mobile version of the headphones? Isn't that a problem for people? I mean, it would be a problem for me. Would it be a problem for you? You have to answer that question. I ask you to answer that question for yourself. If you're going to if you're going to spend $400 on a pair of headphones, $380 if you buy by May 15th upon mass drop. Let's just round up because you got to pay for shipping. $400 for a pair of headphones that still doesn't give you all the detail. That's a problem, guys. $600 for the big brother, the 1770 Pros. You still don't get all the details. That's a big problem. Okay, well, maybe you have to invest in a real DAC amp. The JDS Lounge is a real DAC amp, but I mean a real DAC amp. Maybe you have to invest in, say, a $700 or $800 or $900 amplifier. Maybe you have to get the Odyssey Deckard amp, or you have to go out and buy something that's $2,000. Well, if I have to go through all that trouble, then these headphones better be worth it. And I would not be using the DT1770s with a $2,000 amp DAC. That's ridiculous. Why would anybody ever do that? That's silly. If you have $2,000 to spend on an amp DAC, then you should have the ability to buy headphones that actually deserve the $2,000 amp DAC. The 1770s don't deserve a $2,000 amp DAC. Because if it takes that much power, if it takes that type of finesse to get the details out of the 1770s, then they should stop misleading people. Beyerdynamic should not mislead people. They should say very clearly on their website, you need something substantial to drive these and get the detail out of these headphones. But they don't say that, do they? Massdrop doesn't tell you that either, does it? It gives you some weird charts that you have no idea how to interpret. And they don't tell you how you should interpret it, do they? They give you the graph, and then they give you the lines, and they say, the pads with this particular headphone, and the pads with this particular headphone, and look, they're different. Great. Now tell me the data points and why I should care. Explain it to me as if I'm a child. And that's the best way to learn, isn't it? When you're explained as if you are a child. Because when the individual who's trying to convince you has to break everything down, then you get to analyze to determine whether their argument actually holds water. Whether they're relying on too many assumptions, whether they're making false assumptions, whether their data set isn't actually present, when their data set is faulty, when what they're emphasizing is in fact irrelevant in real world experience. It's a lot of money to put down. And you should have all the information. These manufacturers, these companies should give you all the information. Enough with the marketing nonsense. You deserve better. You consumers deserve to be treated like adults, like professionals, and like guests. Just like you go to a hotel, a decent hotel, right? You go to the Hilton, you go to, Sir Francis Drake, you go to a Trump hotel. Oh, let's not forget that. You bring in another hotel. Four Seasons. They give you the service. They treat you with respect and dignity. They try to serve you to the best of their ability, within reason, right? You expect that because you're paying money for that experience. You're paying a lot of money for it. You're paying a lot of money for the Beyerdynamics. $600 is a lot of money. And Beyerdynamic should treat you with respect and dignity and provide the information to you that people should at least have access to. Maybe you don't understand it. Okay, maybe you don't understand it. But then that's on you, right? Then you have to go out and try to understand it before you buy the headphones. Don't hide the information. So the sound test here, comparison, not the test, the comparison was finished quite a while ago, and I've been ranting about this, and I apologize, but if you made it this far, then maybe you agree with what I'm saying regarding the mass drop version and the 1770s. Ultimately, the Aivas are better across the board than the 1770, even though they're open back. Better in bass reproduction, better in comfort, better in reproducing all the frequencies, better in detail. Go ahead. There you go. That's a much better headphone. Yeah, different driver technology. Planar magnetic versus, the Tesla technology, whatever that is. Is that a dynamic? I think it's dynamic. Fine. Who cares? If you want the best headphone you can get for your particular purposes, then the Aiva trumps the 1770. Okay, hopefully that's been of some help. I will probably upload another comparison with a different pair of headphones with the 1770s in a couple of days, or maybe today. I don't know. We'll see how things go. Let me know if there's a headphone you want me to review. If I have it, I will definitely review it. Let me know if there's a comparison you want me to do with the 1770 or another headphone, if there's any information you would like to know about a particular pair of headphones or an amplifier or anything like that. And I will do the best I can to help, to facilitate your growing and learning, and because we will do it together. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you in another episode.